Matthew Blake, Managing Director at the World Economic Forum. This is the start of a really busy week for you. So thanks for taking some time to be with us.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, so 56th Forum, but the very first one without Klaus Schwab at the helm. I'm just curious, as your team was putting together this week, where did you see need for continuity and where were you seeing opportunity for evolution?
Yeah, so we stand on big shoulders there. Klaus played such a critical role in standing up this organization, and we all have such deep respect for what he's built. And I think in terms of continuity, our theme this year is a spirit of dialogue. That's actually an iteration on the spirit of Davos. And really this place has come to represent, in any macroeconomic environment, in any geopolitical environment, a place where people can come together and discuss sometimes contentious issues at scale and be informed and try to build bridges and to bring the world together, forward together. And so I think that spirit is one that has been consistent with our institution since inception, and that's something that we bring forward with great pride and privilege into the future. We continue to iterate on how we deliver our program, different types of session styles. We're doing more podcasts, for instance, this year. So there's always a lot of innovation, but I think the core, the heart of it, remains consistent.
Now you say that Davos spirit. How much do you think that Davos spirit has taken a hit over the past couple of years as we begin this forum, of course, the past weekend? Donald Trump, president of the US, of course, delivering a diatribe to European leaders, a warning of tariffs if they try to block his efforts to buy Greenland. Do you think there's going to be productive dialogue here?
Well, I think we are confronted with one of the most, and on a multi-generational basis, one of the most complex geopolitical environments that we've seen. I mean, there's no doubt about that. We have almost 3,000 very senior leaders, 1,700 from business, 850 CEOs, and a number, I think 400 ministers from different governments, and over 65 heads of state. It's a lot of numbers. But what I'm trying to convey here is that this is a record year. So I think a platform like ours is so critical in an environment that is shrouded in complexity and uncertainty. So if you're running a business or you're running a nation state, you need a place to come where you can convey a view and also hear other perspectives, network, and learn. And that's really the bridge, and that's the platform that we're looking to create here, and that's always been consistent with our approach. And there really aren't any other parallels to what we try to do on a global scale out there. So we are both humble and privileged at the same time. We work hard, and I think we're going to deliver an exceptional week at a point in time in history where a platform like ours is truly needed, perhaps more than ever before.
Let's talk a bit about the global economy. I know that's your wheelhouse. Last year, WEF started with a lot of trepidation. We heard the word recession as a potential. People were worried about stressors on the market. It proved to be more resilient than I think we had thought. First, why do you think that is?
Well, look, I think there were a number of views that came out of the annual meeting last year. I agree with your premise that the global economy has been much more resilient than many had feared. Growth's been around 3.1%. Inflation has been more or less tame. And I think a testament really to the management of corporates. Balance sheets in the private sector have remained robust. Consumers have held up. And so I think a lot of the trepidation turned out not to play out. And I think what we're seeing is a corporate sector that's quite resilient and robust. Flip it to the other side, the public sector is dealing with substantial debt loads. And I think the IMF predicts by 2029 will be at roughly 100%, sovereign debt levels will be roughly at 100% of global GDP, so roughly $125 trillion. I mean, that's a concerning fact. And certainly, the interest rate environment has remained contained, but those interest payments on that debt continue to consume a large sum of money out of these governments. So there's an opportunity cost there. So on one hand, there's a lot of positives, I would say, over the past year, and also looking forward. Robustness of the consumer, robustness of the private sector. But then on the government side, there are some complicated headwinds, I'd say.
So what then concerns you going into 2026? There are some who say we've ridden this resilience wave almost as far as we can go.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, I'm not sure I fully prescribe to that view. I think we've seen such tremendous investment in AI Really, people are focused here on the return on investment. So how do you tap into this new technology and really drive down costs, drive up productivity and efficiency? And I think that's like the next chapter. And the investment has just been tremendous. We need to bring people along for that journey now. One of our key pillars is how do we invest in people, and that's about upskilling, reskilling, et cetera. And so I think the resilience of the global economy does not evaporate overnight. There are obviously exogenous factors out there. I think the trade tensions that we're seeing are an example of that could provide some significant headwinds. But nonetheless, the corporate sector is quite strong, and I think that resilience theme should remain intact, barring any extraordinary actions out there.
And so you mentioned AI. AI is obviously a huge contributor right now to global GDP growth, but it's very uneven. And you also talked about countries whose sovereign debt is mounting.
Yeah.
How do you bring more people into AI skilling and infrastructure when their debt is mounting? How do you pay for it?
Yeah, I think again, our platform seeks to tap in and look at specific use cases around the globe, and that's a way to transfer knowledge across borders. A lot of people talk these days about the K-shaped economy. That's essentially a bifurcation, like winners and losers. And true to our organization, that's not an acceptable outcome for us. So we're looking at new ways to promote and drive growth in the context of the discussions that we're having this week. It's really important that we bring everyone along for that journey, and that there isn't just this sort of black and white distinction of those who are able to make it and those that aren't. And I think there's an opportunity there for public-private cooperation. We talk a lot about the headwinds for people working together and so much of the tension there, but we as a global community need to drive that ball together. And our platform, again, serves as that catalyst, hopefully.
Final question. So at the end of the week, looking back, what will be one indicator that this was a successful forum?
Well, I think we already see record participation, as I suggested before. I think we're seeing significant delegations from some of the most critical markets. We are
huge U.S. delegation, by the way, right?
Indeed, and we are creating spaces for the public sector and the private sector to come together. And my anticipation is that through this week we'll see hopefully some good, positive, constructive announcements that we can say time well spent. At a minimum, we'll all leave a bit smarter, better informed, and with a greater view on the trajectory forward. And that's a path that we have to walk together.
That part I certainly agree with. Matthew Blake, thank you so much for taking the time. Have a great week.
Thank you so much.